find it incredibly funny how some things just work out in my favor sometimes, but the topic of today's short video is probably one of the best examples of such an occurrence. Now, for those of you who don't know, I'm a massive Final Fantasy fan. I've played almost all of the games in the series aside from the ones on the NES with the exception of the first one. I've watched the films, figured out that I was straight, and the rest is history. I've pretty much consumed a lot of what this franchise has to offer, with my favorite experiences with Final Fantasy being 7's original game back on the PS1, Final Fantasy XV, Stranger of Paradise where they like to say fuck, and 7's remake. But oh boy, let me tell you something. Back in 2020 when I first revealed Final Fantasy XVI and when they said it was gonna be a full-on action game, I couldn't. I've always leaned more heavily into the real-time action entries into the series. Heresy, I'm aware of that, but all of them just felt off in their own way. 15 tested your patience to see how long you can hold in the circle button like it's trying to be some sort of Mr. Beast challenge. Stranger of Paradise is probably the best action game we've had so far, but you look like a schizophrenic sim unable to choose if he'd like to wear summer or winter attire. And 7's remake, while still being good, leaned a lot more into trying to mix the elements from the turn-based formula with the action combat, leaving things feeling automated sometimes. But 16 wasn't pulling any punches, because this game seeked guidance from the one and only Ryota Suzuki. Now that name might sound familiar to people who've played another franchise that has Crazy Frog as its main character. That's right, Final Fantasy XVI signed on the battle designer from Devil May Cry to help out with the combat with this game. And if you've played any Devil May Cry game, you know it has got one of the best battle systems of any hack-and-slash franchise, and from watching those earlier trailers, you can definitely see the influence. 16 was turning out to become one of my most anticipated games of all time, because mixing the world of Final Fantasy with the combat of Devil May Cry, what could possibly go wrong? And then things did. Unless you bought the console that looks like a George Foreman grill from the year 2950. Yes, much to my utter disappointment, Final Fantasy XVI ended up being a PS5 exclusive, which kinda sucked. But this video title would have been classified as misleading clickbait if something substantial didn't happen, and something thankfully did. As I was scrolling through Twitter, I saw the face of a man with the caption that said that on September 17th, Final Fantasy XVI was going to launch on Steam and that the demo was available. And then I felt it. My virginity was coming back. I immediately then acted like a blue rat with a devoted fan base, downloaded that file, and finally, I was able to play a game that I've been so anxious about trying out for over a year. And in this video, I'm going to share you some of my quick thoughts on the game. So immediately after starting off the game, we are not thrown into the main menu, instead at the shader compilation, because this is a modern PC game after all, and if we don't want our game becoming the next Callisto Protocol, I think that this might be for the best. We then do our fancy menu scrolling because we're not here to actually play the game, just appreciate the UI, and then after what felt like ages, mainly because I was playing on a hard drive, leave me alone, the game finally starts, with the furry that's already got some art design for it, and then my favorite part afterward starts to play in this entire demo. Laggy Phoenixes. After the game finally realizes that this isn't the Panasonic 3DO, we're then thrusted into a freefall section where we get to shoot flames at this DeviantArt OC with this epic score playing in the background. One laggy cutscene later, we then get to see a laggy man. We then get to play some medieval Death Stranding, skip some more cutscenes, see that this game is in the same universe as God of War with Gaia busy swatting a flying rat, realizing that we've been playing this demo for 30 minutes already, and then finally, we get to do some actual combat in a tutorial against what looks like if Chris Hemsworth just got done with a bender. Yes, for a majority of this demo, I wasn't in fact playing Final Fantasy XVI, I was playing its bootleg counterpart, Edging Fantasy XVI. Now look, I understand I've been trying my hardest to skip cutscenes, running as fast as I can through these beautiful set pieces so I wasn't properly enjoying the game, but I don't care. care. I came to beat things. And the fact that the game already took 13 minutes and the first time I was actually able to get into the DMC-inspired combat was through a tutorial? My brother, let me free, please. Edging isn't fun. Any case, after finishing the combat tutorial, which really kept on whetting my appetite to actually get into the combat properly, after another 11 minutes and one door pushing QTE later, we finally get a map, select our next location, and then finally, we're making some progress. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is where the fun finally began. But yes, I realize I've been skipping over a lot. But let me talk about the actual demo for everybody real quick. Now, for those who don't know, this is the exact same demo that launched on the PS5 last year, and it contains a large amount of missions from the game's first chapter. And if you were able to stomach watching every cutscene and actually appreciating the effort the devs put into crafting this world and its character, then you'd at most get a grand total of 2 hours of game time, which is probably like 2% of the base game. And from what I was able to tell, there's a total of around 7 to 8 sections of gameplay you get to experience in this demo. Firstly, we have the kaiju battle at the beginning, followed by the Death Stranding walking sim section, then the combat tutorial, then a section that caters more to exploration, just taking in the atmosphere of the world and interacting with some NPCs, then the first proper stage of the game, then another combat section where you get to play as the kid that got stabbed in Berserk, then another proper combat section ending with a boss fight against the Dragoon, and then capping all of this demo off is this epic spectacle battle from the beginning of the game, all in its 2 frames per second glory. So you can actually get a lot of meat out of this demo if you choose to actually watch the cutscenes and explore the game's world to the fullest. But as for me, I yearned for combat. So let me actually talk about the one thing I was oh so excited about. Since this is Final Fantasy's first official departure from a full-on RPG, they needed to make sure to compensate the players who fell in love with that style of game from the start. So what do we have here? Well, do you like Devil May Cry? Well, then have I got some good news for you, so stop pitching that tent because it's going to be a distraction from you enjoying this game. Yes, if you've played any DMC game, or at the very least Devil May Cry 5, then you'll be more than comfortable jumping into this game. This game contains a mixture of long and close range attack, each mapped to a face button. The X button handles the melee attacks, which is probably the one thing you'll be doing for a majority of the combat. The Y button handles your range attacks, which are infinite, and they can be mixed with your close range attacks to create even more combat variety. You have this nifty ability called Phoenix Shift, which I'm sure the game wanted me to use in multiple ways, but the way how the tutorial explained it to me and how I ended up using it for most of the time was to close in the gap between me and my enemies to continue my ever so cathartic beatdown. You can also jump, which I want you to imagine how that would look because I rarely use it in combat. And then finally a dodge, which if you pull it off correctly, rewards you with something called a precision dodge. And then after that you can do something called a precision counter, and any game that rewards you for perfect dodges is more than enough where I'm actually more confident to explain to a person what those skid marks in my pants are when I take them for dry cleaning. Yeah, let's just say the combat is fucking awesome. I do feel at points it's a bit limiting, but since this is only the first chapter in the game, I'm damn excited to see how it gets expanded during the base game. Other aspects of the combat also takes more inspiration from the series' roots. You have your potions that will buff you or give you your health back, and the most important thing is there is this yellow gauge at the bottom of your enemy's health bar that indicates their stagger, and once you break either half or the full bar, you'll be able to knock the enemy down for a few moments, leaving them open to a vicious beatdown, with the added bonus of you and your allies doing extra damage. Another awesome addition to combat are these cinematic strikes and evades. You press one button, you do massive damage, and evading, it just looks cool for you to force the opponent to respect your personal space. And whilst these do look cool, I don't really like these all too much because I think in terms of the window that you have to perform these things, it's way too generous, and on top of that, I just really like being able to do these kinds of things myself. But hey, at the very least, they do look cool, so that's all that matters. We don't actually want to play the game. And that's pretty much all that I've experienced during the demo, and I had a fucking great time with it. My only few gripes with the game are the fact that there's door-pushing QTEs, and I don't like the spectacle battle at the end of the game because all it was shoot the thing until its health was gone, dodge, and hear a child fucking constantly bitch during it. Yeah, no, I'm really excited to try out Final Fantasy XVI when it finally launches in September, so thank you so much to Square Enix for giving me another reason not to buy a PS5, but also making it up to us after... Foam Stars.